Wow, I'm telling you, I was able to kind of sit in the background for the day, and I've had the privilege to be with Seceon in some partner aspect for almost 10 years now, both from a security vendor when I was at SonicWall and then through an MSSP and then now with Obvium as the executive vice president. And what I will tell you is I don't know that I've seen this much innovation in a very short time frame. It's blowing me away actually. I'm all smiles when I was off camera, specifically because of the thoughtfulness that's being put in the platform. I think Chika had a really interesting word that she used earlier. She said concierge, and I see that playing out here with these concierge AI SOC elements that the platform is giving back to those that are the humans that can then play in. I'll borrow Chika's word again, which was around a supervisor. So moving from this idea of a concierge SOC thing that's there, an enabler, if you will, moving over to now the ability for us as humans to be pointed in the right direction and carry the last mile, if you will. Wow, what an innovative day that I've seen through the technology. Chandra was kind enough to invite me today to speak on behalf of what we're kind of seeing in the field around this world resilience. And I love that word. I think too much is being placed on security awareness training. You know, training to me is a one in time type event. Maybe you get a security awareness training once a year, or maybe you got it at your hire date. But how do we build muscle? How do we build resilience? And then now, by way of AI being productive, meaning that we can go out and create or have an enabler in our workday to be us more productive and become more efficient. Now we've invited AI in inside the walls. And how are we thinking about protecting in that area? And I love this quote from Robert Harris. It says, "In the end, the only safe place to put a Trojan horse is outside your walls." If you think about this idea of a Trojan horse, it was the Battle of Troy. It lasted for like 10 years, and then all of a sudden the Greeks pushed in a Trojan horse to take over the city, and inside that was obviously, battle-ready fighters. And so they were inside already. And I think where we're finding AI is in that exact same spot. It's inside the walls already, and now we're trying to catch up with what we're doing to protect it. So I kind of wanted to spend a few moments there today as we go through this. I'm a child of the 80s. It's okay. I'll age myself. And I had a really big affinity for this character on screen called Ultraman. I wanted to be Ultraman. I thought he was really cool. I dressed up like Ultraman. I watched all the TV shows back when Saturday TV was a thing. Saturday morning, eat my cereal and watch Ultraman do his thing. So I thought about when I was putting this presentation together, what was it about that intrigued me about that show in particular? And what I would illuminated to myself was these threat monsters, all the ones that were trying to combat or take aim at the city, always appeared inside the city. Never in any of the episodes would you ever see them coming on the horizon and then making their way into the city. They were already there. They just popped up. And I thought about how we've invited AI in a very similar way, and we've not built our defense systems in order to contain or even understand this type of threat. In the show, you would see these threat masks, if you will. So we got early warning detections. There would be like these seismic readings and these unusual weather patterns and these unexplained signals or just these anomalies that would be going on. And so you would lean in to where you thought something was happening, but then the threat was already in the city. Then you had this, rush to try to figure this out. And where I see this kind of today and where we see productivity AI, it's really around this harmless experimentation. We're downloading like Copilot things, whether it's Otter or something else, to help summarize our sessions. When I joined today, I saw several as invited guests, these AI summarizer tools. And we're doing it under this idea of being obviously making improvements in our productivity. We want our documents to be stronger. We want to be able to speak it, and therefore then it's captured. And then really this code suggestion. So it's AI we use, AI we build, and organizations are running after this. And the reason why they're running after it is because boards are putting a lot of pressure C-levels are putting a lot of pressure that they don't want to be left behind in the AI race. And so they run out and trying to build tools and then integrate solutions without really asking the security question. And so to me, security has always followed where the work happens. So historically, we've had this perimeter security where we built walls and moats around everything. We put up firewalls and put guards and identity asks of things around our SaaS applications and our cloud platforms. And then we also got endpoint security and all on the laptops. But then you got this AI-driven security that's now popped up. And it's really, honestly, how decisions are being made and actions are being executed, but it's done at the application layer. It's for the guise of, hey, we need to do more with less. We don't want to hire another individual, so we need an AI tool because we don't want to, again, be left behind. But in reality, we've adjusted our security paradigm because everything that we've done to secure everything from endpoint to identity to perimeter now has not been up-leveled, if you will, to take care of all the productivity tools that we put in place from different variety of AI vendors. So we've not even asked, are these third parties governed well? Do we have good T's and C's with them? Who owns the risk here? Are they transferring that back to us? And so really what's happening is we're chasing where the work has happened, but it's evolved now to where the AI is inside the walls of the business, and yet we're trying to play catch up again, as I noted earlier. So AI is now inside the workflow. So it's increasingly embedded in the applications that we're using. I don't think you could probably purchase a mainline application on the internet now today without it speaking into AI and what their tool can have in terms of AI to make you smarter, better, faster. And so these AI co-pilots that are writing and doing coding and doing analysis and all the decision making across all kinds of things, Microsoft 365, Google Workspace. And then you layer in these automation engines that are multi-step, autonomous. You can just throw things up there and they all of a sudden draft. And it can almost speak like you because it gets to know who you are, your style. I use ChatGPT quite often, obviously the paid version, and put the bells and whistles on to protect the data. But what I would tell you is it's learned my persona. So I could go in and ask it, hey, what do you know about Keith Johnson? And it would give me a bullet point summarization of who I am, what my tone is, how I go to market with conversation and speech. And it's really quite stunning. But these AI assistants, and a lot of that conversation is happening today, are starting to surface like these ideas that, hey, I can only get so far. Can you at least help me? And so you end up with this influencing decision that's happening. It's almost like we're leaning in on them to take information instead of it summarizing. It's becoming the decision that we go with. You know, whether or not we're asking it for help on some things and then it gives you a spit back and we just choose one and that becomes a de facto decisions. And we as technicians and engineers and security professionals, we know, right, that we need to do some safeguards and look at this from a certain lens. But I will tell you, those in the executive space and those that aren't bent on technology are making decisions based on what AI is outputting. And that should be an alarm for many of us because it's the tools that have been invited inside the walls that the decisions are being made on. And to me, I think about this a lot because it does become an actor of sorts. It is a persona that we need to care about and really challenge those that are using the AI and making sure, one, obviously it's factual, and two, how did you come by that decision? You know, what was in the workflow of that decision? AI can be a piece of it, obviously, but it can't be the holistic of it. And so there's risk. So we have this new security dilemma. We need to really start thinking about the intent and putting guardrails around this intent. You know, our prompts and natural language queries submitted by users is a workflow element. It becomes automated through actions by the AI itself. And then again, as I mentioned, decisions are influenced or even initiated by what AI suggested. I think Shika had mentioned this earlier about some vulnerabilities that exist in this space. And really the one that popped out to me was this one from EchoLeak, which was released late last year, where an attacker sent a malicious email containing some hidden instructions in the white space of an email. They were unhuman readable. So in this case, Copilot read that because it was hooked into this individual's Outlook and was able to see it, and then materially, without the user even knowing, had some prompt injection back into Copilot, and then exfiltrated based on those prompts to send data to an attacker that lived elsewhere. The user did nothing. Copilot acted automatically on behalf of the user because that's what it had been trained to do. So how do organizations place guardrails around this intent? Like when AI systems are embedded throughout our trusted business applications. I mean, most of the ones that we're using in-house today are ones that hey, it's Microsoft, so we trust it, or hey, it's Google, so we trust it. But in reality, we're not really looking at the use cases that we're trying to solve. Instead, we bought something that has lots of different features and functionality, but really we didn't battle test the ones that really need and turn everything else off. So I think we have a lot of data, and I'm really thinking that Seceon could help solve this problem because they sit at a pinnacle within the ecosystem that allows us to collect a lot of telemetry that's happening on the network. I can't tell you how many times I walk into an organization and I ask what AI they have trusted, and they said, let's say Microsoft Copilot. Yet what they're finding is users, employees, don't particularly maybe not care for that. And so they've logged into their own personal versions of ChatGPT or Claude or something else because they thought that was interesting. Or if they're on Google platform, maybe it's Gemini. And they don't have visibility into that. So what documentations or knowledge-based information is actually leaking into those, and those are not trusted. Sure, can the business do some things to kind of lock down? But to me, it becomes, hey, we need knowledge, we need visibility, we need to train and build resilience in our employees to figure this out because they're going to go find a way if they don't have a way. And so what I have found is it starts with understanding, right? What do we have? What are people using? And a survey going around to 1,000 employees is not the answer. So to me, why cyber resilience matters more than ever is because AI adoption, as it's accelerating, our defenses have stayed somewhat static. We look back and see, hey, we need to get closer to the endpoint. So we're doing a lot of things there from an EDR aspect or EPP in the case of Seceon. And that's the right move because we need something to protect that device. But as we're expanding in our attack surface and social engineering is becoming what it is today by acceleration through AI, and then the misuse of legitimate systems by adversaries, organizations need to anticipate this, they need to adapt, and need to recover quickly from these evolving threats, which is essential for building this resilience. So what are some practical safeguards for AI? Well, Chandra was kind enough to bring me in on a preview. I know this is a hot topic for tomorrow. I saw it on the agenda. So this is preview only. A lot of things may have changed since Chandra and I talked. But what I thought about was this idea of an agentic data management platform. Obviously, this is a word that's being thrown around in the industry. I tried to back into what it really means for my customers that we serve and those prospects that we have. And I thought about, okay, this is the right thoughtful approach. We have some guardrails that we can put in, but it starts with mapping the AI footprint on another organization, understanding what AI tools they have embedded in their organization, and then what shadow AI employees are adopting without any type of IT approval. I'm having those conversations with executives and IT directors and administrators because they're worried because they just don't know what they have and what people are using. So to be able to map this out in a thoughtful approach is a great direction. And then once you have an understanding of that, then you can build governance policies around it. So we can define acceptable use policies for AI-assisted workflows. Again, AI you use, AI you build can have a different path, but this data collection of assessing and processing and acting on the user's behalf can pull its way into a policy-making framework, which I think is a fantastic approach and very thoughtful from Seceon to be able to have something like this in the platform. Also, we can have confidence rather than hesitation, right? So we we can make decisions based on the data that's in hand, not what we anticipate may or may not be there. And so this idea that we continuously evaluate the exposure, to me, speaks to me. That's exactly where we are. We see a patch history. If you look at the Verizon report in general, I mean, most organizations can't even get 50% of their patches done in the first 55 days. So as threat actors are elevating using Claude or something else to find vulnerabilities, then all of a sudden, how can we even keep up with that? So we need a better, thoughtful approach of, hey, we've analyzed our attack exposure, and now we can prioritize based on industry, based on what we have in hand from data telemetry. And so decisions can be thoughtfully made versus we need to go out and buy another AI tool in order to solve the problem, when it's probably the AI tool in general that caused the problem. And so for me, just having a really great understanding of our attack exposure, but doing it in a faster clip, say every 30 days, or continuous in this case, that to me makes better decisions. And then you can then give that data back to a customer in order to make those stronger decisions. Chandra and I have had many conversations around the fact that Seceon's platform is so strong that it has data around other things that aren't security. So this is, again, a thoughtful approach for this ADMP platform, because maybe they're fine with where they are from their AI that's in the walls, this discovery, if you will. So we can go out and analyze and say, okay, I got folks using chat, I've got folks using Gemini, I've got folks using Claude. The data is there, and then they can make a responsible decision on how they want to approach it. Could be more training, right? There could be that they need to bolster their AI security policy a little bit tighter, but at least they have it in hand to make those decisions. And then from there, then they can start blocking some things. And if the employee wants to do it on their own time using their own personal devices, no problem. However, we're going to guard the data that we have in hand, because that is obviously the new oil. And so we want to make sure that we are taking that type of thoughtful approach. And then monitor it for emerging threats, right? It's not just take a baseline. We got to move forward with that. It's got to be evolutionary. Before the adversaries can achieve their objectives, we have good understanding and what it is that we're seeing. To me, when Chandra was talking to me about this new way of going about this discovery, this illumination, this visibility, I was so proud to be aligned over the past 10 years with this platform, because it's hearing what we're expressing from the partner ecosystem. It's very pragmatic. We're bringing in what the customers are saying. Obviously, I think I mentioned, or someone mentioned on the call earlier about going out to RSA. It's governance, governance, governance. And I equate it to us when we were back in COVID, when everyone had to go home, and then everyone had to move their data to the cloud, and then we caught up with security. I equate this very similarly. Everyone wanted to get on the bandwagon of AI productivity tools. They jumped. Now all of a sudden, we're having to take a better, thoughtful approach in order to then guard the security around what these AIs are allowed to see and what they're allowed to transfer outside our walls. So security must follow where the work happens, right? So understanding the exposure, know the complete attack surface, really establishing some governance around these AI-assisted workflows. Again, it starts with visibility, getting understanding, and then continue to reduce the risk. Like, it's not just a one-time project. A lot of folks will go out and hire an individual, come in and do a risk assessment, but to me, it needs to be more continually, because the exposures are changing at a rapid pace. The next tool will be integrated for the sake of the business in order to speed things up, yet security is generally sometimes not at the table. And then lastly, really, because speed is everything, to detect and respond quickly is paramount. So I love that Seceon is really caring about moving security forward in a very thoughtful way. And to me, the platform really empowers organizations to adopt AI with confidence, because as they are evolving, Seceon is evolving, and it really allows for the customer to be able to have some confidence in building a resiliency, not just a one-time train. So with that, I thank you for your time. I know that was fast, but I know I'm last today, and folks maybe it's time for the evening to end, or maybe get a late lunch. So I want to thank Seceon, Chandra, Maggie. Thank you for your time today, and I really appreciate it.